Climbing Everest is already a death-defying challenge, but some people make it even riskier by breaking the rules. Imagine sneaking past permits, dodging regulations, and pulling off stunts so wild they leave veteran mountaineers stunned. From forbidden paraglides to fake summits and secret shortcuts, these aren't just climbs, they're high-altitude heists. And the mountain, it's watching. In May 2023, American climber Darren Verploegen reached Camp 2, perched at nearly 6,000 meters above sea level. Most people there were battling oxygen loss, frostbite, and brutal exhaustion. Darren, he was preparing to fly. With a paraglider stuffed in his pack, he sprinted toward the edge and launched himself into the icy sky, soaring over glaciers, crevasses, and the infamous Khumbu icefall. Onlookers were stunned. No one had heard of a paraglide attempt that high up, especially one done solo, without permission, and that was the problem. Under Nepalese law, any form of aerial activity around Everest requires a special aviation permit. Darren had none. He didn't just break mountaineering rules, he violated airspace regulations in one of the world's most tightly controlled climbing zones. Officials called it reckless. The tourism ministry issued a formal warning, saying Darren would be blacklisted from future expeditions if he ever tried it again. But for Darren, it wasn't about permits or paperwork. It was about the thrill, the footage, and the fame. In a world where every Everest climb looks the same on Instagram, this was his way to stand out. And he did, just not in the way he might have hoped. The incident went viral. Mountaineering forums lit up with arguments. Some called it bold. Others called it a slap in the face to those who risk their lives following the rules. Either way, one thing was clear. Darren's flight crossed more than just airspace. It crossed a line. And what came next would push that line even further. Climbing Everest is supposed to be a test of endurance. Every step through the ice falls, every night gasping for air at high altitudes. It's all part of earning the summit. But in 2023, that tradition took a hard hit when climbers began skipping the hardest parts by flying over them. One of the most controversial cases involved Rochelle Gilmore, a former professional cyclist from Australia. She wasn't new to pushing limits, but this time, she bypassed entire sections of the mountain using helicopter transport. Instead of hiking up from base camp like everyone else, reports say she used choppers to reach higher altitude camps on both Everest and nearby Lhasa without the required route permits. It sparked outrage. Seasoned climbers who spent weeks acclimating and hauling gear saw it as a betrayal of everything Everest represents. Sherpas spoke out, saying it disrespected the mountain and those who risked their lives guiding the traditional route. But Gilmore wasn't the only one. Helicopter shortcuts are becoming more common, quietly arranged and rarely reported, especially among wealthy climbers looking to conquer Everest without enduring its most brutal stages. The high-altitude taxi rides shave days off the climb, but they also cut corners on safety and ethics. Nepal's government launched an investigation, but enforcement remains inconsistent. With money and private contracts involved, many climbers get away with it. What was once a sacred path of suffering and perseverance is now being gamified, and for many in the climbing community, that's more dangerous than any avalanche. But climbers weren't just skipping steps, they were skipping entire peaks. In 2023, one of the most respected names in modern mountaineering got caught in a storm of controversy, but it wasn't weather that caused it, it was permits. Elite Exped, a high-profile guiding company co-founded by celebrity climber Nirmal Nims Purja, was accused of pulling a stunt that shocked even seasoned Everest insiders. According to Nepalese officials, the company secured a permit for a smaller peak, Lingtran, but instead of climbing that, their team allegedly made a full-scale ascent of Mount Everest illegally. It's a big deal. Permits for Everest are strictly controlled, and they cost tens of thousands of dollars per climber. By climbing the world's highest mountain under the name of another peak, they could have bypassed government fees, avoided scrutiny, and jumped ahead of the regulated system entirely. Elite Exped denied the allegations, calling the reports completely false. Nims Purja, known worldwide for summiting all 13 8,000ers in record time, insisted everything was done above board, but questions lingered. Why were climbers with Lingtran permits spotted at Everest Base Camp? Why was there no official Everest documentation for their summit? Nepal's tourism ministry opened an investigation, but many suspect internal pressure kept things quiet. In a region where tourism dollars speak louder than rules, it's hard to know how deep the rabbit hole really goes. For climbers trying to play fair, it was a slap in the face. For the industry, it exposed just how fragile the system really is, and not all of these deceptions stayed on paper. Some were exposed in much more public, humiliating ways. Faking a summit on Everest might sound impossible, but in 2016, one climber pulled it off. Almost. Narendra Singh Yadav, an Indian mountaineer, claimed he reached the top of the world that year. He posted photos, received national awards, and was even shortlisted for the prestigious Tenzing Norgay Adventure Award. But there was just one problem. The photos were fake. Internet sleuths and fellow climbers noticed strange details in his summit photo, like a blurry, almost cartoonish Everest flag pasted into the background. Critics claimed the image was digitally altered. Investigators later confirmed it. Narendra had never made it to the top. The fallout was brutal. Nepal's government stripped him of his summit certificate, revoked his honors, and banned him from climbing in the region for 6 years. It was the kind of scandal that made international headlines, and embarrassed not just the climber, but the entire system that approved his claims in the first place. But here's the wild twist. In 2022, after years of humiliation, Narendra returned. This time, he completed the climb the right way, with full documentation, GPS tracking, and a certified summit photo. He finally earned the title he once faked, but the shadow of that first lie never fully disappeared. For many, the question wasn't just about him, it was about how many others had done the same and gotten away with it. On Everest, the line between ambition and deceit can be thinner than the air at 8,000 meters. But while some climbers faked it, others pushed their bodies to terrifying extremes, all in the name of speed. For decades, summiting Everest took weeks, sometimes months, of brutal preparation, slow ascents, and oxygen-starved acclimatization. But in 2025, a new breed of climbers arrived with a different strategy: skip the suffering and use science to hack the mountain. That year, a handful of elite athletes from the UK and US shocked the world by reaching the summit in under 5 days, from sea level to the top of the world. No extended base camp stay, no traditional acclimatization, just a fast surgical strike on the highest peak on Earth. How? Xenon gas and hypoxic chambers. Before arriving in Nepal, these climbers spent weeks simulating high-altitude conditions inside specialized altitude tents. Some reportedly used xenon gas, an experimental method meant to stimulate red blood cell production, tricking the body into thinking it was already climbing. It's legal for now, but highly controversial. Sherpas and veteran mountaineers were furious. Everest has always been as much a mental trial as a physical one, earned by enduring every brutal step. These new methods felt like digital cheat codes in a game that was meant to be played the hard way. Even Nepal's tourism ministry stepped in, warning that such methods could be banned in the future. They feared it wasn't just about fairness, it was about safety. If more climbers skip proper acclimatization, the mountain's death toll could spike. The debate split the community. Some saw it as innovation. Others called it disrespect. But one thing was clear: Everest was changing, fast. And with the rules being bent, and sometimes broken, the biggest backlash wasn't from governments. It came from the mountain's own people. For Sherpas, Everest isn't just a mountain, it's sacred ground. Generations have lived and died guiding climbers through its deadly terrain. But as Everest gets flooded with shortcuts, staged summits, and record-chasing stunts, many Sherpas are saying, enough is enough. In 2025, after a wave of rapid ascents, fake permit scandals, and aerial stunts, the Sherpa community publicly pushed back. Veteran guides called out what they saw as disrespect, not just toward the mountain, but toward the culture that supports every climb. Some even walked off expeditions in protest, refusing to guide clients they believed were cutting corners or treating the climb like a trophy hunt. It wasn't just about tradition, it was about safety. Sherpas warned that inexperienced climbers, relying on helicopters, drugs, or fake acclimatization, were putting everyone at risk. If one unfit climber collapses in the death zone, it endangers the whole team, including the Sherpas expected to save them. Their message was clear: Everest doesn't need more broken records, it needs more respect. The call for an Everest code of ethics gained traction. Nepal's government began quietly drafting proposals to crack down on illegal helicopter use, fake summit claims, and experimental speed climbing tactics. But enforcement remains loose, and Sherpas know that until the global climbing community listens, real change won't stick. In a world obsessed with faster, higher, cheaper, the Sherpas are asking the one question no one else seems to: what's the point of reaching the summit if you have to lie to get there? They glided off cliffs, flew over base camps, faked photos, and hacked their bodies with gas. From stage stunts to silent rule breaking, these climbers thought they could outsmart Everest. But Everest doesn't care about records. It doesn't care about social media clout, sponsorship deals, or fast-track fame. For every shortcut taken, the mountain keeps the score, and it never forgets. What started as a test of human endurance is now turning into a high-altitude game show, where money, speed, and ego often matter more than respect. But for the people who live in the shadow of Everest, the Sherpas, the guides, the generations who treat the mountain like family, none of it is entertainment, it's survival, it's legacy. So next time someone brags about conquering Everest in record time, maybe ask this: did they really conquer the mountain, or just cheat their way past its lessons?